Hello, and thank you all for coming to today's session on the part of preparing for the career fair, talking about your virtual self. If everyone could just make sure that you're muted, so there's no kind of distractions, and we will be recording, so you can also go back and listen to anything that was missed. And so I'll save some time for Q&A towards the end of or in between the presentation, but if you do have a question you want to ask, do feel free to add something to the chat, and I'll take different times to stop and answer any questions that anybody has. So with that, I will go ahead and get a second. Okay. All right. All right. So like I said, today we're talking about the preparing your virtual self. And so the plans, what we're planning to kind of cover are going to be information about elevator pitches, talk about kind of what the kind of virtual chat, virtual interviewing type of is going to be, how you can use LinkedIn. And if we have some time just to show you a little bit of how Brazen would work, we're kind of getting in the lobby. It won't be an actual thing because it won't really be most useful until the event goes live, but we can just give you some idea of kind of what you can look at ahead of time. And when we talk a little bit about LinkedIn as well, I think it's important. There's a lot of good information about the different parts of LinkedIn, different types of resources, and then also even afterwards, just it's good to be thinking about alumni or any alumni and profiles you can look at there if you need some help with how to kind of update and write your own. All right, so next slide. So first, talk about a little bit about your virtual elevator pitch. And I think what we think about with this, it's that kind of introductory thing that you're going to be sharing with anybody at the career fair. You're going to be thinking about what is it that I can say about myself in a short amount of time. And it might be something that will feel comfortable to you in terms of doing it, and also might be something that you're need to practice or work on. What I'm going to encourage you to kind of think about is to be as natural as possible with this. So I'm going to give some information here, but really just try to think, how is it that I can give an overview of myself in a short amount of time, just to kind of start these conversations with various folks. So a little bit about kind of, what is an ideal length for an elevator pitch. So one of the things that we kind of think about, they can certainly vary, but usually having something that you can say in 2 minutes, if ideally you can say within a minute. So oftentimes I'll say, think about a 30-second commercial and what could you say in those 30 seconds. But the elevator pitch can be a little bit longer. You can talk a little bit more about not only yourself, but also what you're interested in, and also what you find to be helpful or most important for somebody to kind of know about you. So you can give information about your past, along with also giving information about your what you have a long-term interest in wanting to do as well. So about how many words should be in pitch. So when we think about kind of if you create a script for yourself, or like what is an ideal amount of kind of wording, anywhere between 100 and 250 words. Part of what you think about is after a certain number or a certain amount of time when you're talking, just natural attention is going to kind of either wane, or they're going to get maybe somebody's going to be thinking about something else. So if you think about the normal pace that we normally talk, and you can use that, first like 20 to 30 words to really kind of grab their attention. But you want to kind of think about, if you are going to craft a kind of a little bit of a blurb about yourself, it should be anywhere between 100 and 250 words. If you've been working on your resume and you have like a profile section, or even LinkedIn, the about section in LinkedIn, some of the phrasing that you've used there can be the same phrasing that you can use in your elevator pitch. So kind of think about, you might already have some of this framework already done. It doesn't have to be something brand new that you would write. But if you feel more comfortable ahead of time in terms of, these are the things I'm going to say. This would be the ideal amount of words to use. So why is it important for an elevator pitch? Because it's a good way for you to be able to showcase the most important aspects about you, and talk about skills and training in a short amount of time. It's a good way to, so you want to kind of be thinking about, how is it I'm going to communicate about myself? What do I think are the important things to kind of share? What do I think that I'm well versed at or well skilled at? You also, why is it called an elevator pitch? So, this idea that if you were stuck in the elevator with somebody and it was a brief ride from the bottom floor to, say, the penthouse or the top floor, what could you say with that one individual when the two of you are in a captive place that you could share with them, to where they would be interested in wanting to know more about you? So, that's kind of the idea, is like, you will have a captive audience for a couple minutes, and what can you share about yourself so that they are intrigued and want to learn more and ask more information about. So when we think about kind of craft or putting together what makes a good elevator pitch, the idea is, you want to kind of identify what do you think is your kind of goal. And so with that, you also do want to be thinking about, explain what you'd want to do. So this is that idea, is like, I have interest in doing, qualitative research, or I have interest in wanting to do work within, a community or something like that. So you can kind of think, forecast about the things you think you might want to do. Think about what you're going to think of as your unique selling piece, or your USP. And what is it you think kind of sets you apart from everybody else? What do you think is good, either from the training that you have, the experiences that you've had up to this point, or what you think is something that's very unique and different about you? And then kind of putting it all together, so that it doesn't become a rambling, kind of long-winded explanation about yourself, but that it's more a kind of coherent, kind of well thought out and deliberate piece of information that you're sharing. Your practice of this, so this might be something you've been practicing, but I also say too, this would be something that you can practice during the career fair itself. So this idea is that each individual booth that you go to, you're going to kind of be refining kind of what it is that you're doing. So if you want, visit an organization you're not that interested in, as a way to kind of practice, if you feel like you do. But if you feel good about what it is you want to say about yourself and what you're interested in, and kind of what you think is important for you to sell, then this might become more comfortable for you each time that you do it. So, and a little bit of talking about kind of identifying your goal. These are kind of just some in general things to kind of think about. So think about starting a pitch with, what is the objective of your pitch? Do you want to have a simple and engaging speech, or about your particular training? And you can kind of state, I'm interested in gaining experience in this particular area of public health, or I have varied interest, but these are a couple of things that I'm considering. So it's not a guarantee that every employer that you talk to, that you're going to have to constantly be kind of selling yourself. Some of it might just be, this is very much, I'm kind of exploring this field, I'm exploring this area, so I'd like to learn a little bit more about it, or these are the things that I'm considering. So you want to make it a worthwhile kind of information about what you're looking for, so that the person that you talk to can give you something that can be helpful. So next part, explain what you do. So what we think about here is, what are actually going to be the items about yourself, or the summary parts of information, or the highlights of your resume that you really want them to know. So if you kind of ask yourself this question, as you're kind of either writing it out or thinking about it, is to say, what do you want your audience to remember about you? How is it that what you say is going to be something that they're going to respond positively to? Whether it's a smile, maybe it's going to be nodding their head or something like that. People may not always remember everything that you say, but they will kind of remember how enthusiastic you are about what it is you want to do, or the next steps that you want to take. If you go into these exchanges with individuals where you're not sure about what you'd want to do, or you're not really that showing that you're interested in something, those can actually kind of reflect negatively on you, because they're not thinking that you are interested, or you have a clear idea about what you'd want to do. But if you can show that you're enthusiastic and that you're looking for opportunities, and you're excited to be able to put into practice what it is that you're learning, and you become very inspired by the courses that you've taken here, these are all things that will come through in the conversations that you do have. So talking a little bit about your unique selling point or your unique selling proposition. So identify what makes you, your skills, your training unique and different. So as a soon-to-be graduate, I can think my background, training, and interests align well with the work at your organization. So kind of what we're thinking about there is this idea is that, how much ahead of time have you looked at these organizations? How much have you kind of explored what they do? And then also too, how much have you allowed for you to be able to kind of blend in the information that you know about what that organization does? If you can articulate it in such a way that you think your skill set is a good fit, or your background is a good fit, or your area of interest is a good fit, by all means, certainly say that. And say too is that if there are roles that you know about there, is that I could really see myself in this type of role, or maybe they're going to share with information with you, or you're going to be able to look ahead of time at the job opportunities they might have there, and just say, oh, these are a couple that I kind of noticed in doing my research that I really noticed that I think would be a good fit. So these are just things you want to kind of add in. You want to kind of connect the dots for them as much as you possibly can. This also too then becomes a little bit of what can be seen as your competitive edge. So this competitive edge is what maybe will help you to stand out above the crowd of many other students that are going to be engaging in the career fair. These employer reps are going to be talking to a lot of people in a short amount of time. And maybe this will be something that will help them to remember you for that, maybe some follow-up conversations, or for them to reach out to you afterwards. So kind of think about what does kind of set me apart from anybody else, or what makes me something that they will remember after the career fair. So the idea kind of putting it all together. So it probably might not be a bad idea for you to kind of get a timer for yourself. Think about what it is you're going to say, and then see how long it would take you to say that. And is it becoming long-winded? Is it becoming something that is, you're sharing too much information? Is there something you can kind of cut down on? So part of what you want to think about with this and that kind of, completing the part of it, you might have unique things you want to say about yourself for different types of employers. So an overall kind of elevator pitch about yourself is fine. But if you can tailor it to an organization you want to speak with, that's going to help to kind of cut through some of the unnecessary things that need to be there. The biggest thing I can kind of say with this is try not to be too perfect with it. You want it to still sound natural. You still want it to be something to where you feel like you're just engaging in a conversation. This idea too that if you try to follow so hard to your script in terms of what it is that you're going to say, you then kind of just feel like you're repeating something that you have on the screen. It might be a good idea too, if you have some key things you are wanting to share about yourself, having it either close by, something you can reference visually, or something you have up on the screen when you're talking to somebody. But the idea is don't feel like you have to read from it, but really feel like you can just try to be natural and try to be relaxed and just try to engage in these conversations with folks. And then this idea of the practice part of it. Sometimes when we are nervous, we're going to talk way too fast. We're going to feel we're very rushed, and we might forget very important things. So just kind of think about how you are kind of presenting yourself in the moment, and also to be as important as kind of what you're saying about yourself. So if you can kind of slow down your speech, if you're a fast talker, if you can find ways to be more deliberate in what you're saying, if you can find ways to avoid verbal tics, if you can find ways to think about what you're going to say before you say it, so you don't have to use the uhs, the ums, those kind of filler words that don't really help, and kind of be prepared, with that. I know these are the things that I want to be saying about myself. I'm going to take my time to say them, but I'm still going to do it. I want to rush, but not feel hurried, basically. Talking points as opposed to sentences and text. So I'll share this with you as well, and these will be links that I can share afterwards to everyone that's here. But these are just some kind of other resources that you can find. We have one of our alums who this past year. She does a great presentation about, kind of a new elevator pitch. But, you can find some other things out there if you want to get some more resources and kind of thoughts on, how is it that you can kind of perfect and make a good elevator pitch for yourself. Any questions at this time? And if people do have questions, they want to raise their hands, I can also, or just unmute yourself if you do have a question. Okay. Well, like I said, there'll still be time for questions at the end, so please do feel free to, ask questions then as well. Okay. All right. So next, talk a little bit of kind of like the virtual chats, or like I say interviews because for some of you might feel like it's an interview, but for some of you might just feel like it's a conversation. But the kind of the techniques and the things to kind of mention and talk about are all kind of be the same. So when we think about, the before a virtual chat or an interview, getting yourself familiar with the technology. So obviously Brazen is a new technology that some of you may or may not be familiar with. It does work very similar to things like Zoom and Teams and WebEx, but it doesn't hurt to kind of, kind of make sure you kind of tested things out technology-wise, making sure that your microphone is working properly, the webcam is working properly. We as a staff will be available tomorrow for any technical problems you may have. Brazen support is also available if you're running into technical problems. But just making sure if you can, the things on your end are working properly. That's usually a good idea. It's always a good idea to set up a distraction-free area. So you want to kind of eliminate any of the visual distractions near you, behind you, or around you, so that you are, when you're engaging in a conversation, that you are fully focused on either what's on the screen or looking at the camera, that you don't want things behind you that can be distracted from the people that you're talking to. During the actual visual chat, choosing an outfit wisely. So I'm going to strongly encourage you, even for a virtual career fair, that at least from, dress professionally, at least from the waist up. So, it could be, you don't have to kind of wear a full suit, but you can wear a nice shirt. You can also do, if you want to wear a tie, by all means, go ahead and wear a tie. But it's an idea too of you wanting to look professional, you're wanting to look the part, you're wanting to look like too that you're taking this very seriously. Another important thing to do is kind of pay attention to kind of where you're sitting, and also to how it is that you're sitting. So paying attention to your posture, sitting tall in your seat, trying not to slouch too much into your chair. Try not to look like you're kind of sitting on the side of your bed, or sitting kind of very comfortably on the couch, kind of doing this. So standing tall, looking visually good on the screen in terms of what you're doing, I think is an important thing to do. It's a good idea to also to kind of focus your attention as much as you can at the top of your screen or at the camera directly. So again, these are things where, if your laptop is sitting on a table, sometimes it might be a good idea to have it elevated some way, put some books underneath there so that the camera is right at your eye angle, so that you're not looking down at it. But anyways, to where you can focus more of your attention, even if the box for or on the screen where the person is that you're talking to is lower on the screen, still focus your attention a little bit higher in your eye angle, so you're looking more at the camera. Most all will have the camera up at the top. This most importantly too helps the conversation to feel as much as you can more real and kind of natural, and as if you were in person. Now, with that said, there are always going to be, you don't have to kind of stare at the camera, but you can also your gaze can kind of go away if you need to, or something like that, or as you're looking at something. But intentionally trying to make sure that you're looking up and looking at the camera. Might feel a bit strange to do it, but it does make a big difference to the person on the other end. So in terms of the preparation part of it, in terms of things that I think are kind of important to think about, is prepare so well that you don't care how well you do. So what I mean by this is, don't think to yourself that you're trying to cram everything in or get everything in that you possibly can. If you can give yourself that space to feel confident, to know that it's going to be okay if I mess up. So this idea of trying to be the least amount nervous you possibly can, because this then allows for more of your natural personality to show off and to shine. Think about these virtual chats and interviews. They won't be perfect. So the good ones, you'll know because when you'll feel like it feels like a conversation. If you feel kind of relaxed, you kind of enjoyed it. But there's still probably something you can improve on, something you could have said differently, something you could have mentioned earlier, some point you could have said differently. And then the bad ones are just ones you can learn from. So not every single engagement that you're going to have in a virtual chat is going to be something that's going to be terrifying and dreadful. They'll just be ones, okay, I didn't do good on that one. I'll get better on the next one. This is also to a practice skill. So as we say a lot of times with interviewing, when you go to your first job interview, it's gonna be pretty daunting of a task to do if you've never done it before. But by the time you might get to interview 5 or 6, you're gonna feel a lot more comfortable with the things that people are asking, what you're saying about yourself. You're gonna feel more familiar with the questions that they're gonna be asking. And it'll be the same thing with the career fair as well. So your first exchange with somebody might be, a little choppy, but after that you'll feel more relaxed and more refined, and you'll feel hopefully throughout the day as you talk more and more people, it'll become more familiar to you in terms of what you're going to say. So you almost have to think each time that you're engaging with somebody, you're getting another chance to practice that pitch. You're getting another chance to refine what it is you'd like to say about yourself. So we do have, and I'll share these as well with you afterwards, and they're also, I think, added onto the website, just some information directly from Brazen about how to video. There's some videos on how to do a virtual event, how to do a virtual chat, kind of other useful things that Brazen has just to familiarize you with, like screenshots of different things like that. I should hopefully at the end give you some time to kind of look at it. Brazen, if you haven't already registered in Brazen, I would encourage you to register, because you can look at the lobby now to see who the employers are that are coming. And like I say, it'll look different once the event actually goes live at 11 o'clock. So part of what you want to think about too, these might be some common questions you might get asked from the representatives that are at the career fair. So what skills do you bring to the table? What do you see yourself doing 5 years from now? What are you kind of looking for? So, having some idea ahead of time of what some of these questions might be and how you think you might answer these questions is going to help you to feel more relaxed in answering them in the moment. That's not to say you're not going to get a question that is you weren't prepared for, or you didn't quite know how to answer. A lot of times these questions too might be you just kind of talking through your resume and sharing information about yourself. But if you look at all these questions, they have something I like to call a question behind the question. And so usually what I mean by this kind of question behind the question is, when you get some of these kind of open-ended questions, walk me through your resume, discuss your education and background, tell me about yourself. These are questions that are usually just conversation starters. These are questions too that are used, to kind of get an overview of who you are. So I always think it's a good idea to start with things from currently what you're doing and work backwards in time. So it's that idea of if you were to just kind of, again, it's that part of that, this is also to kind of answering that pitch. So your first question might be, tell me about yourself. Well, then that's your elevator pitch. So if you worked on what you're going to say, you already have this one kind of figured out. If you've written a profile, you've already started to get this one figured out. If you've written a summary of information about yourself for LinkedIn, you've already started to kind of get this one started. But this, again, is just an overview of information about yourself to then have, to start a deeper conversation with stuff. Another set of kind of question behind the question. So you'll see these here. Why did you choose this? Why do you want to go into public health? What are you passionate about? What's important to you in any job that you get? So now they're looking for ways to get answers from you about what are you passionate about? What are you motivated by? What drives you to succeed? And usually the idea is those things that you are interested in wanting to do will be things you'll remain consistent over years. Or there may be things that you've done in the past, that are also too consistent. So when you hear these type of questions about like, what do you want to do? What motivates you? Why are you doing what you're doing? Those are what they're trying to get at, and what they're trying to find out is to say, like, what are you really kind of interested in? What do you see yourself doing in the future? What do you see yourself doing 3 to 5 years from now? What are you looking for in a new position? These are the questions where they're trying to find out, what are you committed to? Can you be counted on to get the work, to be able to get work done? Also, too, in what you say, what you offer to them as your answers to these questions should align to what the job is asking for. So if you go and you say to somebody, well, in 5 years, I plan to go to medical school, that might not be what they want to hear, because they're looking for somebody that can be there beyond, that is going to be there for longer than that. So that's just an example of it. But you have to kind of think about, well, maybe what I have to say has to match up to what this job offers and what it is that I can do. But again, they're trying to determine your commitment, how long you'll be doing the work, and can you be counted on to do the work. Other types of questions is, tell us what you know about us. How did you hear about us? Why do you want to work here? These are all questions for them to say, did you do your homework on us? So the idea is, if an organization is going to take the time to kind of, ask you questions about yourself, can you show that you've done the kind of saying back to them that you've kind of explored it? So ways to answer these questions is, in exploring your website, I found, these projects that you're working on to be very interesting. And you can also say, I'm learning more about your organization, but I'd be happy to hear more about what you have to tell me about it as well. So that's another good way that you can kind of answer this question if you're asked. But it's this idea that showing that you're prepared and your preparation goes a long way to impressing somebody when you talk to them. All right. Any questions here? Don't see anything else in the chat. So if I don't, then I'm going to go on and talk a little bit about LinkedIn. And so kind of in talking about LinkedIn, I want you to kind of think about too, is like, this is also to another way you can kind of present and introduce yourself to somebody that's an add-on to kind of what you might be sharing in Brazen. If you're not familiar with LinkedIn, it is the online network for business professionals. Lots of recruiters use LinkedIn to find future employees. Almost all organizations will use some sort of a screening of LinkedIn to learn more about somebody besides just the document that they're turning in as part of the job process during the career fair. So the LinkedIn searching of organizations when we were in person was always after the fact. So you would always be meeting with them personally, face to face, sharing a resume. And if they were to do follow-up, it would have been things that they did, the hours or the days after the career fair. Because now it's virtual, some of these employers might be able to, in the moment that they are talking to you, do a quick Google search or go into LinkedIn, type your name in and see what you have there. So you want to think about how this is also to just another way for you to kind of digitally and virtually kind of show yourself. So, again, kind of just, some general information about LinkedIn, the number of users that use it, how many students are using it. And I would even say that these numbers have probably increased since the last time that we did it. But just know that it is a useful kind of piece to use in your toolkit as well. Oh, Aaron had a question. Is the kind of general questions about the fair tomorrow is mostly one-on-one with the rep, or would there be small groups of people? Yeah, no, that's a very good question. So the way that it will work within Brazen is that when you go to an organization's booth, you'll see that there's representatives for that organization. And then when one of those representatives is available, you'll be able to do a one-on-one video chat with them. Some of them might be just utilizing the text chat, but we've encouraged all the employers, if they can, to engage in one-on-one virtual things. So that most of the time you're going to find that all your interactions are going to usually be one-on-one engagements with a rep from that organization. So again, purposes of using LinkedIn is to get a job. That's why most people are doing it. I look at also to LinkedIn as a great way to build a professional network, but also to control and maintain a positive online presence about yourself, either tomorrow and the next few weeks, for the next few months, and then beyond as well. So I strongly encourage you to kind of think about LinkedIn as it's a great way to find jobs, but it's actually, to me, more importantly, is a great way to develop and have a strong online presence about yourself. Most of the times too, when people do a LinkedIn search, or sorry, do a Google search on you, the first thing that will usually come up is your LinkedIn profile. So if it's well done and lots of good information, then you're going to be found the ways you want to be found by potential employers. When you are building your online profile, or your LinkedIn profile, I should say, the kind of top fold, or the first part, or what appears on the first part of the screen, is most important. So those things that are usually going to be there are the things you kind of think about. Top folds of the newspaper. That's when most people, when we had newspapers before, that's what most people would see. They would see the headlines and things like that. And kind of LinkedIn kind of has that same feel. There is a summary or an about section, and then somebody will kind of go through and read through the experience. If you think about, most of the time, readers are not spending a lot of time kind of reading through all the information in the profile initially, but they are intrigued by the summary, and then they'll continue to read through the experience, the education, and some of the remaining sections. So what you want to do is you want to have information for them that's easy to find. You also do want to have information that matches up with what you have in your resume or CV, is also to what would appear in your LinkedIn profile. It doesn't have to have the same amount of information, but it should have similar information if you can. So if you've updated your resume recently, it would probably be a good idea to kind of review and kind of update a LinkedIn profile as well. So when we're looking at kind of how it is that you are kind of developing your professional brand, one of the things you want to think about is you have control over what is visible and what's not visible to folks. So part of going through the private and public settings of that information, so you can know kind of what is shared. Usually with the public settings of information, it's going to be more general information, and then you're more kind of once you connect to somebody, then they get a fuller picture of you. But pay attention to some of the things you are making visible to folks, so that you feel like you're comfortable with kind of what other people are seeing. So this is some overall kind of good information directly from LinkedIn. So think about your public profile as the more simplified version of your overall LinkedIn profile. Things that are kind of good to think about with this is, we always say having photos is good, because that's what people are going to kind of be gravitating towards more than anything else. But then at the same time too, if you want to have kind of an easy way for people to find you, having a tailored LinkedIn profile or LinkedIn URL is also too a very good idea. But also too, these are just some general and good ideas and good suggestions of things from LinkedIn about what you can do when creating both your public and your private profile settings. When we think about overall with LinkedIn and what the things that to be paying attention to, so name, profile picture, your background picture is you can look at and you can modify and change if you'd want. Headline is usually the items of information that appear directly under your picture. People have ranged that from being their current job title to putting something in about their degree type, to then also to putting more kind of nouns describing the work that they do. They can say educator, researcher, clinician, whatever that may be. So the headline can really be as tailored as you want, or as general as you'd like. After that, you're going to be then putting things, all over your various positions that you have, your education. You also too will designate a general area that you're at. The location part of it is not as important now as I think it maybe was a few years ago when searching for folks, because more work now is virtual. But it will be something that you will want to include in there. You can put Baltimore for right now, or you can put a location that you plan to be when you graduate. Industry, there is no public health industry right now, but close ones are, it could be international development, or it could be healthcare, or it could be research or something like that. So, choose the industry that you think is the best fit for you. Contact information is usually always an email that you're checking on a regular basis. It does not have to be your Hopkins email. but it can be your Hopkins email for right now. And then when you graduate, you can have messages to that account go to a personal email account afterwards. And then finally, the summary. So the summary is, kind of the things I kind of touched on already. It's that, blurb of information about yourself that you're telling someone. So we think about kind of, all these are other areas you can think about. So recommendations, I don't think are necessary within LinkedIn, but if you want to have them, by all means. If you have certain certifications and licensures or clearances, those are good things to include. Coursework can appear here, but it's not necessary. I think it's better suited for the resume. I think it is okay to put honors and awards in your LinkedIn profile, different languages that you speak. And then some of the things on the right side here, these are possibilities and things to include, but I wouldn't think that these are the searchable things that I think a lot of times employers are looking for. So I think more of the things on the left side are the items that people, when they're looking very quickly at someone's LinkedIn profile, these are the things that kind of stand out for them, with the highest emphasis usually on your experience section, kind of the trajectory of what it is that you've done, how long you've been in certain places, and just trying to get that overall feel. It is really important, to have your LinkedIn profiles. The worst thing you can do is have that gray silhouette there when somebody is searching for you on LinkedIn. Try to keep photos up to date. You have the ideal size for LinkedIn photos, 400 by 400 pixels. Try to make sure the photos, your face takes up at least 60% of the frame. Try to be the only person in the photo. Try to avoid selfies. Try to get someone to take a picture of you. And these are just kind of, some general overall tips as well. Usually, if you can take a picture, an outdoor picture is better. I know personally for me, my LinkedIn photo has been the one that I've had for many years, so I probably have to update mine. But at the same time, it's you want to present yourself in such a way to, right now when you are job searching, it would look very similar to how you would be if you were talking to somebody during an interview or meeting with them for the first time. And writing through your headline. So your kind of headline is the text that, like I say, appears just below your name in the introduction card. It's usually a good idea to create it with the current role that you have and also where you have an area of expertise. But you can also have it be a highlight of information about what you are interested in, what you would like to be doing. The best thing I can say when writing these kind of headlines is spend some time maybe looking through alumni profiles and see what they have, not from the job titles that they have, just to see what are the various ways that they are presenting themselves. If you're unsure about what to put for yourself as a student, I would say you can put MPH candidate, you can put MSPH candidate. Those things would be perfectly fine to include, but I might add some extra information in there too. If you're in health, behavior, and society, just say MSPH candidate, behavioral health or something like that. So try to add some kind of keywords of things that people would notice if they're looking at when building your LinkedIn profile. The summary or the about part, again, this is that couple sentences of information. You can write it in such a way to where it's not getting in a lot of great detail, but it's just going to be an introduction to you in terms of what you'd want. Using some kind of impactful language is also can be helpful. But if it's better for you to just look at the information in your resume and then use that as the way to write your profile, that would be fine. This profile this summary will probably be something that you're going to be changing or looking at every few months as something you might want to change, or something new that you might want to add to it as well. So kind of think about too, in making updates and changes to your resume, you can also look to be making those same changes to your LinkedIn profile so the information is consistent. And then these are all links to information from LinkedIn about how to write the different types of profiles, kind of what to do, some kind of guidelines on photos. So for each one of these, I'll share this whole page in a separate document or within the presentation itself that you can go through. One thing that you can certainly do too is utilize LinkedIn Learning. So LinkedIn Learning actually has a lot of good videos and kind of resources in there to help people write outstanding LinkedIn profiles. Just note too, making sure that you customize it as much as you can to public health, because LinkedIn is getting it from a broad audience, but you might have to kind of narrow it down to the areas that make the most sense for you in the area of public health you want to go into. If you're not familiar with it, I just want to mention this kind of quickly, is how helpful it is to look for alumni within LinkedIn. So if you go to the schools page within LinkedIn and you click on alumni, you can come to a page like this where you can start to search for alumni based on where they live or the organizations that they work at. So you can, if you have an organization in mind, you can look through that filter list, choose it, and then it'll filter down those alumni numbers to something smaller. You can put also information into the search box. So if you have organizations in mind, you can do that. It might not be a bad idea to, before the career fair, look at the employers that are coming, see if there's any alumni that are there when you search in LinkedIn. And then that just kind of helps you to kind of say, wow, there's like 6 alumni that work at this organization. They used to work there. And that maybe increases the likelihood that they're very interested in wanting to recruit Bloomberg students as well. Other things you can find within the kind of alumni part of LinkedIn is what do they do? So based on what they designate as kind of their area of focus or interest, what they say that they studied, also to what they say that they're skilled at, and then also to how you connected. So some people you might have already built up first level connections with. Those are people that you have introduced yourself to, they've accepted your invitation to connect, and you have their kind of less public profile information. Second level connections are people that that know somebody else, and then third level connections are people that know people that know people. But you want to build up as many first level connections as you can over time. Thing about too is LinkedIn can be your digital Rolodex of people that you interact with and talk to. So my other suggestion is going to be, as you go through this, is the individuals that you talk to at the career fair, note who it is, and then see if you can find them after the career fair in LinkedIn. If they happen to be alum, great. But if they also too just happen to be the recruiter or the representative that's there, it's also too very helpful to search for them in LinkedIn and then just send them an invitation to connect after the career fair as well. All right. Any questions about LinkedIn or anything like that? Okay. So I'm just going to say there's 2 different, I'm going to probably stop sharing this screen, but we have like the student view and also the employer view. They look very, very similar in terms of what you can have in there. But I want to mention one more thing before I go to the brazen demo. So one of the things I will just say is it's probably a good idea for you to choose between 12 to 15 employers that you want to visit. And kind of breaking this down, choose ones that you think that you absolutely want to see. You want to make sure that you can get some time to interact with them and have a conversation with them. Then also to choose some employers that you have a strong interest in. And know too that this list might be slightly longer, but maybe it's not 3 or 4, maybe it's like 6 or 7 or something like that. But have kind of a tiered way that you're going to kind of look at this. Also then pay attention and look at and visit employers that you heard of but you might not know much about. And it'll be fine to be able to visit with the employer and say, I'm learning more about kind of what you do. Can you tell me more about what the opportunities are here if it's a place you haven't heard? And then especially if it's a place you've not heard of, please go visit them as well. So we have, I think a fairly diverse group of employers that are here, from large, small, nonprofit, for-profit, government, non-government. So there could be a number of organizations or organizations that are there that you're not familiar with and not sure about what it is that they do. So also to kind of it would be fine to kind of visit with them as well. If you're coming to the career fair as a way to just kind of learn a little bit more about what's out there and things like that, this is a good reason to come to the career fair, so you can learn more kind of what's there. And just kind of see. But I would encourage you to, look for employers besides just the ones that you know, or the ones you think are going to be the most popular, or the places that people want to go. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing here for a second, and I'm just going to bring up. So this is what the kind of landing page will look like when you come into the lobby of of Brazen. So part of what you want to think about with this is that you know, all of this information, we've encouraged the employers as much as they can to put as much information in here as we can. So once you have registered and you have completed the registration, you will see we have our career services booth. So if you have questions for us, if you want to test out their technology with us ahead of time or things like that, you can kind of click on here and kind of join it. To actually talk to an employer, one of the things you then do is you'll go directly into their kind of booth, and then you'll see what the information is that they have here. Oops. I have to log in again. Sorry about that. So yeah, if you click on an employer and go there, then you'll get some more general information. Like I say, it'll have the representative that's there, if they have some information about different types of opportunities. And this is updated information from the employer. So this is the best place to kind of go to get the most current and up-to-date information. And then they might have some videos in there about different things that they have and what they are doing. What you'll notice once the career fair starts is that there'll be more information about, how to begin to chat with somebody or something like that. You can leave notes for people as well and come back at a later time if you would like. You will be able to notice when you are in this kind of lobby, as people kind of, go to their different groups, what the kind of count is of the people that are kind of there. And then you'll see too, for any of the various employers, they might have just little short descriptions out here. But more importantly, you can kind of go in, look to see who the individuals are. What I will just say too about this, if you are in line for a long time waiting for an employer and there seems to be other students that are going to be ahead of you, make note of the contact that's there. And we can help to facilitate if we need to after the career fair connection with them, if you need to meet with them or talk with them. But I would make sure that, if you're not already registered, complete the registration. You can start exploring within Brazen, the lobby, to see who the organizations are that are here. And you can start to kind of note for yourself who are the ones that I want to kind of talk to, and get that kind of extra information aside from what we've put out in the website, and also through Handshake and different places where we've been sending out information. And again, like I say, they might have descriptions about kind of what to do, and then next steps or anything like that, and then the people to kind of talk to as well. And then just in terms of your profile real quick, so you can, on your registration, you can certainly upload a resume. So if you have, we've heard a lot of questions this week from students about a resume book and resumes and things like that. Please feel free to add a resume here, so that an employer can look at something and see, information about you as well. Here, in terms of the headline or the degree title, you can put what degree program that you're in and kind of what you're, so that when they see you virtually, it'll not only show you on camera, but it'll also have some of that background information there as well. So, feel free to add a photo in. So like if you have a LinkedIn photo that you've used, that would be the same kind of image that you'd want to put in here as well, so that when they are, so that your profile is complete as possible. All right. So I'm gonna stop there and see if there's any questions from anybody. I don't see anything in the chat. Please feel free to kind of either unmute. We'll be able to background. That's a very good question. I'm not sure if you'll be able to blur your background or not. I don't know if that's the setting on there. No other questions or anything? Okay. Well, if there's not any questions, again, we'll be available. Myself and Olivia will be available tomorrow. in the career services booth, if you do have questions and things come up, you have questions about employers, if you have questions about the technology, you have questions about sharing information and things like that, we'll be available for those questions to ask. It'll be just like the other booths for employers, so you can kind of stand in line and go like that. Yeah, go ahead, Kayla.
So should we kind of like schedule ahead of time, like a slot with employers, or do we have to go to a waiting room and wait for them to open up?
Yeah, so I think employers have kind of different things that they're doing. Some of them may have scheduled times to do that. I think you do have the option to schedule something to come back to at a later time. But I think all the options that you can do will be available to you once you start, unless that employer has put something out ahead of time to schedule time to go and talk with them.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Sure. I'll just say in terms of the wait part of it, you have to kind of think it's just like a regular in-person career fair. So if we were in person, all the employers would be at their tables. They would be there talking to students. You wouldn't necessarily, kind of go ahead of somebody else. So you'd probably be waiting. You might be, the only thing that's different is you're not overhearing the conversation that they're having with somebody else. And these are more kind of one-on-one kind of conversations that you're going to have. So there might be a little bit longer of a wait. Most of the employers, the settings for the times that people can talk are 10 minutes or less. But at the same time, if an employer can extend that conversation, they extend that time if they would like. But just know too, there might be a wait for more popular employers, and if there is, let us know, and we'll do what we can to try to connect you to that person afterwards, or share your information with them afterwards too. Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. I thank you all for coming, and then I'll follow up later today with this recording, the slides, and some other information as well. And then from there, if you do have questions, please feel free to email, and we'll try our best to try to answer them before tomorrow.